right.
It was so good.
Yeah. All right. This is a perfect segue. All right. The show now officially starts. There we go. Virtual Recap episode 4. Welcome, everyone. Yay.
Welcome.
This is so it's easier for me to clip onto YouTube when I finish up and finish up the recording.
Oh yeah, it is your first recap with the new model.
No, last one I had a new model. Because
Right.
I did the debut, and then the next day we did recap.
Right.
That was 2 weeks ago,
right.
by the way. Time flies.
Time does fly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I guess like to start it off, the number one topic of discussion, it was on the tweet that I sent out earlier. I'm going to just navigate to it. Twitch shenanigans. There we go. You can read that loud and clear there. And let's just pull up this tweet because this has been doing the rounds. I've been going mildly viral. I am a niche internet micro celebrity with this take of mine that I had about Twitch, YouTube, alternate streaming platforms, and why we're even having this discussion. So 2 weeks ago, we actually had a discussion about VStream, and we'll be talking about them a bit later today, being a potential Twitch alternative and the viability of these alternative sites. Gucci, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This week's episode is going to be much more focused on what Twitch has done and what the reaction has been. So, to preface this all, Twitch did some very dumb things.
Yes.
They released these branded content guidelines, which were some of the most ridiculous set of marketing rules I have ever seen, in which they limited on-stream logos to 3% of screen size, which I would love to get out to Ruler and measure that. And there was also some additional things about burning in video ads, display ads, and audio ads. This basically sent the community into a tailspin because a lot of burned-in ads make up a lot of broadcasts. There is burned-in ads on the Streamer Awards, for example. There is burned-in ads on every single esports broadcast. Twitch
I
using...
actually thought the logo ad was the worst part.
The logo one is by far the worst one, and also it's just native with the Twitch using 3% of their brain for these new changes.
That's an excellent point because I did wonder, I feel some projection going on here.
Yeah.
But like the logo ad, for example, I mean, I rarely watch some of the big broadcasts. Granted, when there's a League Worlds, I'm probably watching, right?
Yep.
But when I think about like logo advertising, it's so unobtrusive that it's actually one of my preferred ways of seeing people like sponsor things. So I was just like, why are you guys going after this?
Yeah, like the whole thing was a bit ridiculous, and it kind of came down to some wording. It came down to a change in the Twitch terms of service and partnership agreement that they sent around to everyone, and included Twitch affiliates in, which includes people like myself. If you have a sub button, you're included, is basically what it came down to. But it was kind of an alignment of Twitch's policy with the policy on other platforms, but it very much missed the nuance of what the policy is on YouTube, for example. So when they said they wanted to ban, and this ties into the next one because I actually went back 24 hours later. Where's the actual tweet where I want to reference it? Okay, I'll have to dig it up. They went back in less than 24 hours and said, actually, we fucked up. Like, they,
Which, like, fair. Good for you guys for taking it on the chin and being like, oh, we messed up. But also, like, you guys did not nearly reverse everything that you needed to.
Yeah. So, like, they came out and said, I'm just pulling up this Zach Bussy tweet because he's whatever on right now. You know, we impacted new brand and community guidelines that impacted your ability to work with sponsors to increase your income from streaming. These guidelines are bad for you and bad for Twitch, and removing them immediately. Funny use of the community notes here where they actually hadn't removed it from the legal speak at that point in time, but this has since been amended. But what they were trying to do was trying to stop third-party ad providers from circumventing Twitch's native ad system where they can serve ads to creators. But by doing it with such broad wording, they basically just nuked every form of advertising that streamers could ever think of doing.
Yeah.
So, like, there was, if you, for example, and I'm going to use Ludwig here because Ludwig did a really good episode of Mogul Mail on it.
Yes. Please watch it.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Ludwig said, like, you know, the KFC ad that he did on the Streamer Awards, for example, this year, would be not allowed because it is a burned-in video ad. Despite the fact that it's not a third-party ad, it was something that Ludwig and the advertising company that KFC had worked on together and put in natively, not third-party, but first-party from the creator themselves. But that would still be banned. Yes. And so that was a big issue with the whole wording of the situation. And as you can see here, the Twitch has updated its wording. This is a side-by-side look by Zach going, where it originally read, this means you may not, nor may you allow a third party to insert or embed pre-recorded advertising. Now it's just third-party advertising networks are not allowed to serve advertising through Twitch services. Basically, this is Twitch just saying, don't try to circumvent our ad regulations. Like, if you want to serve ads on Twitch as a third-party ad provider, you have to do it through our channels. You can't go to the creators directly. But the creators themselves, they can still do advertisements in the way that they used to do them. So, in essence, not a lot has changed here. Maybe there's a couple of changes with how branded content is being, like, how, like, the created. But ultimately, this is a no harm, no foul kind of situation. A lawyer, Noah Downs, also known as my lawyer friend, actually broke this down really well when it came to the new partner agreement, because this was something that came out after the branded content guidelines. And basically, this is aligning some of Twitch's wording with the ruling that they had previously against streamer Phantom Lord, where they actually had to make some changes to how streamer monetization worked. So this kind of new agreement, partners of all sizes have to agree with it. It doesn't matter if you're and affiliates as well. So affiliates get it automatically accepted. So 170 Follow Me has it accepted automatically. But if XQC wants to keep his blue tick, keep his purple tick, he has to sign up to this new agreement. So it dashes any sort of previous agreement and handshake or specialized 70-30 split that previous partners had, basically. And it also looks to be, it basically goes into some talk about minimum content requirements, where Twitch is now going to mandate monetized streamers to stream what is considered a consistent amount, whether that be consistent by Twitch standards or consistent by the streamer standards. But I think what they're trying to avoid is a streamer keeping their monetization after not streaming for a year.
Which does sometimes happen.
But the language of the contract is so broad, where it is provide a consistent amount of live content, where how many hours is that? How many days streaming is that? Does that mean because when you apply for affiliate, you have to have streamed 8 unique days within the last 30. Are you going to force affiliates to keep up that streaming if they want to keep up that monetization? Like, it is such a broad scope. So this gives Twitch a lot of power to just... This is like a catch-all for Twitch. Because this gives Twitch a lot of power where they're like, we don't like your content, so we're not going to monetize it. We don't like how much content you make, so we're not going to monetize it anymore. And this is basically, in my eyes, how I see it, is if Twitch decides, hey, we don't like your stuff anymore, they can just be... but they don't want to give a specific reason. They can be like, well, it just breaks the monetized streamer program minimum content requirements, because your content isn't high enough quality, or it's not the quality that we want, or you're not doing it frequently enough.
Yeah, it just gives them way too much power. And I love that in the review that Noah created, a lot of it was basically just like, it's super vague. Yeah. Everything is just very, very vague. And if you know anything about American contracts, this is extremely weird. American contracts have a tendency to be very, very specific because we like the more specific, the better it is for all involved, right? Like, you just don't want ambiguity, and the fact that there's no such there's like just so much ambiguity in this new MSA means that everyone is unhappy. Even Twitch is unhappy.
Yeah. So this does limit in terms of like this is the point of the outrage that I think is justified, where it's like the original branded content guidelines sucked and Twitch needs to speak to creators more. But they are working on that, and so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And there has been a lot of creators saying like, yeah, there's been an open door on Twitch now where we're actually discussing how to monetize properly on the platform. This makes no sense to me. This to me reeks a little bit discriminatory because of if you're a streamer with disability but you can't stream for 6 months because you literally just can't. Are you going to lose your monetization when you come back? You're going to have to start from square one again. And depending on whether that is actually actioned on, there might be like an actual anti-discrimination case that could potentially be taken to court. But that is all hypothetical for now. That hasn't happened yet. But another part of the discussion that we have seen is, well, Twitch is doing these bad things. So what are the other platforms doing? Which brings us to here with this wonderful thing, a table that Hannah sent to me from VTuber Yam Kamori about, you know, what difference does YouTube and Twitch have for creators? And, you know, it breaks it down for like how big you are. And, you know, Twitch, this is all pretty true, in my opinion, from what I have seen, is if you're a smaller creator, Twitch has way better discoverability and just way better features all up. But it does kind of change as you grow. Because, you know, once you hit YouTube partner, sorry, you can kind of get access to a lot more of the streaming features. And then, you know, it is still a big platform, but
a much larger platform by a very, very wide margin. And so that certainly helps for YouTube. But I think where the breaking point is once you hit that monetization ability on YouTube, all of a sudden it flips. Where like, it is certainly harder to get started on YouTube, but the moment you become monetizable, because YouTube has so much more power over ad spend and everything, YouTube just becomes a better platform.
Yeah. And YouTube as a streaming place is still pretty bad. Like, discoverability sucks. Navigation sucks. The community aspect is
kind of non-existent.
The community aspect is akin to Twitch's, and Twitch's community aspect is hardly anything to gloat about. But once you hit monetization on YouTube, and if you do a couple of tweets, like you integrate stream elements or you integrate some sort of third-party add-on to kind of catch the shortfalls, it gets better. It's the same way that base Twitch, people kind of forget this, base Twitch kind of sucks. And Twitch becomes a lot more better when you add Nightbot. Twitch becomes a lot more better when you add better TV and 7TV emotes. Twitch becomes a lot better when you add stream elements. YouTube is kind of the same. There's less tools, but you can still kind of make it work. So between streaming on YouTube and Twitch, that's much of a muchness to me. I'm not sure if you agree or disagree with that. But
I think...
Oh, you go.
Oh, go ahead. You go.
You're gonna finish. You're gonna finish your point, because then I'm gonna start moving on to Kick and Rumble, which is where I'm gonna flip my fucking lid.
It's just kind of like, I wish this wasn't the world that we were dealing with, right? Because like, I also use some of the native Japanese. So in Japan, there used to be Line Live, which is now dead, and they also use Showroom. If you've ever used Showroom, it is actually one of the worst streaming platforms alive. I don't mean this in like the community sucks or anything. No, it's just like, why they made these UI choices, I just have no idea. It just tends to be really popular, but like, I wish there was a better streaming platform out there, but they all kind of suck. And it's just a pick your poison kind of thing.
So, speaking of picking poison, this now brings us back to the first tweet which I kicked us off at, which is, I did a tweet today, or actually yesterday now, about Twitch alternatives. Because in the aftermath, every time Twitch does a fuck up, and it has been for the last 6 months, is people have gone, well, I'm just going to move to a different platform. And that platform, over the last 6 months, has been Kick. So, if you're unaware, Kick is a... Here you go. Here's Kick's front page right now. It is a streaming site. You can kind of see that it looks very similar to Twitch. It has the same kind of categories. It has a growing viewership base. Like, this used to be way less than what Twitch used to be. What it used to be before, like, as it started. And, you know, it's slowly growing. Kick, as you can see, this has my byline on it. It's very tiny. But I covered Kick straight away for Desherto. One of the first articles out there back in December, I think, when it launched. November, December last year. And Kick really tried to market itself on the fact that it was going to be very creator first. It was going to offer creators a 95% revenue split on subscribers, which is huge compared to Twitch's 50% and even YouTube's 70%. And, you know, it was offering, like, you know, it was going to be a bit more lax on the moderation, which appealed to some sides of the Twitch base who felt like they were being silenced or they couldn't speak freely on Twitch. And there was a whole bunch of things about it. But basically, it was being like, yeah, we're going to be super creator-centric and offer them a shit ton more money than what they could get on any other streaming site. Then that also brings us to Rumble, which has actually existed for a lot longer. If you want to see what Rumble looks like, this is what Rumble looks like. Here you are. This is, again, pretty similar kind of vibe. The top live categories kind of give you an idea of what this platform is more about compared to compared to Twitch and Kick and YouTube. News, education, trending news, podcasts. Geez, I wonder which kind of people use this platform. But, you know, this is a streaming alternative that has also cropped up, and the reason why it's relevant now is because Ms. Kiff, who was once a very, very prominent Twitch streamer, is now also streaming with Rumble. And it has grown massively in the last 2 weeks because of Twitch's faux pas. And even though the site's been around since 2013 and has been kicking around for a long time, has been making leaps and bounds strides in growth. They are publicly listed now on the NASDAQ as of, I think, September 2022. And so they're a publicly traded company and they're continuing to grow through that way. But not all is well with these alternatives. And I just want to get this point out, and then I'll let you talk about how you see them, Hannah. So, Kick and Rumble, in my opinion, are not Twitch alternatives. So I'm just going to read my tweet verbatim here, because if you're a VTuber who preaches inclusivity, Kick and Rumble are not your Twitch alternatives. Those platforms are shady at best financially and actively hostile to diverse creators. Don't get allured by the bag. It's not guaranteed, much like Mixer, Facebook, or Trovo before. So where this comes from is I have a very extensive background in covering streaming. When I started at Desherto, I had to learn very quickly. And in that time, we have seen platforms come and go and burn bright and burn out. Mixer is probably testament of all of that, where they signed on a bunch of creators to get the bag, but the platform was terrible and it ended up collapsing in 2 years because Microsoft pulled the plug. And so that left big streamers like Shroud and Ninja a bit like going, where the hell do we go from here? Facebook has had a little bit more long-term success, and it has some viability in specific markets, most prevalently Southeast Asia. But that's because Southeast Asia lives on Facebook. Trovo kind of tried to do what Kick and Rumble did, but like 5-6 years ago. And Trovo still exists, but it has quickly become an outcast for the people who are banned on Twitch and YouTube. That's where they go. And that is the number one problem sites like Kick and Rumble have, is they only become relevant because they are the banned, they are where the banned Twitch and YouTube streamers go. And so that kind of gives you an idea of the kinds of environments that are fostered on those streaming platforms.
It's kind of sad because when we just started this segment, right, we were both just like, these two platforms suck. But all of these platforms suck so much more. Like, just like what Hanako is mentioning in the chat, from a streaming perspective, they're not that great. And to top it all off, like, the communities that tend to gravitate towards there also really suck.
Mm.
So it's just kind of like, can't, I guess, like, it is really hard to make a platform that is both, like, user friendly and actually really good.
Mm.
Apparently, this is a lot harder than I thought. Otherwise, everyone would do it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But it's also just like everything about these platforms just screams red flags, and we haven't even gotten into the big kahunas.
We
Of both
haven't
of
even
them yet.
started looking into the red flags. So let's start with the red flags. Let's start with Kick, and let's break down why I said what I said on Twitter. So, why is Kick not a Twitch alternative for VTubers who preach inclusivity if you want to have a safe space? So, Kick, like, you know, it's kind of got the kind of creator content. Like, it's very Twitch adjacent, you know. Fun fact, Kick actually stole Twitch's CSS and UI when they launched, and it was very much clearly that it was just embedded Twitch stuff, and they got in trouble for that. But now they've actually made their own kind of thing. You can kind of see, like, you know, there's games, there's just chatting. But what I want to talk about is not necessarily the platform itself and what it looks like and how its functionality. I want to talk about who's behind it. So, this is a wonderful, wonderful article by the now defunct launcher on Washington Post, by Shannon Liao, who published this. I think it was like within 48 hours of Kick launching back in December. It goes into talking about who is behind Kick. And there are two names that you need to know here. One is Trainwreck. So Trainwreck, also known as Tyler Nicknam, was a massive Twitch streamer, had more than 2 million followers before he left the platform for Kick, and was very much known for his gambling content. He would play slots and other gambling games, mostly luck-based, on stream for 40 hours straight, basically. There was a point in time where Train was the most watched streamer on Twitch based off watch hours, beating out like esports broadcasts, XQC, who usually holds that title. Train was huge when slots gambling was on the rise in 2021 and 2022 on Twitch. And he was a major part of Kick getting off the ground. He worked on like bringing streamers over. He worked on, you know, getting the streamer first element on. Is that what he says? He says, you know, Twitch wasn't a hospitable platform, and so, you know, when they went into Kick, they wanted to be super creative focused. But there is the second person in this, which makes things really murky and why I don't recommend going to Kick, and that's Ed Craven. So Ed Craven, for those who don't know, is an Australian entrepreneur, and I hate using that term when it comes to what he has done. And he is responsible for co-founding the popular crypto gambling casino Stake. And if you haven't heard of Stake, first of all, I'm sorry that I've had to introduce you to it now. But Stake is it is what it is on the box. It is a gambling site where you put in crypto and you earn crypto based on what you roll. And so, like, it is two very big evils in my opinion. So, the reason why Kick can offer such a ludicrous amount of money towards its creators is because it is bankrolled by Ed Craven. And while it's not bankrolled by Stake directly, he has always denied that it is a Stake project. He has always said that it is a Ed Craven project and it's just his money. Stake earns millions upon millions upon millions a day off the back of gambling losses. And not just any gambling losses, it earns it off the back of crypto gambling losses. And so the reason why they can offer streamers that much money is because it's basically just, you know, farming the blood money, as I see it. And this becomes even more evident when you view this in the context of what had happened on Twitch in the months leading up to Kick being launched. So we had Twitch ban slot streams in October last year. October last year, they announced the ban in September. slots on Twitch had taken over. Stake was offering creators on Twitch upwards of $10 million a year to gamble on their platform, no matter how many millions of dollars of losses they made. I think there was a point where XQC said he had gambled more than $100 million on on Stake, which is a ludicrous amount of money. And obviously it wouldn't have been all of his money. It would have been house money. It would have been a little bit of his money, but mostly house money. But it is a ludicrous amount. And the thing is they can offer those kinds of contracts because the viewer base that they're targeting and the audience that is seeing this content are going to go onto Stake and then spend $100. And then they might spend another $100. And then all of a sudden, that's how the gambling addiction starts. That's when Stake earns all the money, because gambling, luck-based gambling, especially with slots and all of that, is a loss-making game. The house will always win. And that is the money that Kick is using to pay its creators. Which...
I think, like, honestly, I think I am a lot more ambivalent towards slots. But when slots are all-encompassing, that's where you have a problem.
Okay. Here's a little bit of personal context that I'm not even sure you know, Hannah. So, Hannah, the reason why I am so vehemently against slots is in Australia. I grew up in WA. WA is the only place in Australia to have banned slots machines everywhere. Or everywhere except the casino. So in the rest of Australia, you can walk into a pub or a bar and there'll be a pokies room or a gaming room. And that's where, they'll have the slots machines. In WA, those are non-existent.
Everywhere?
Yeah, well, basically, like you can walk into like a pub on the street and you can see, and you can just go and pull on the pokies. You can't do that in WA where I grew up. The only pokies we had were the ones in the casino. And so, from an Australian perspective, where we are the highest spenders per capita on gambling each year, and we have massive problems with problem gambling, money laundering through pokie machines, etc.
Yeah.
I take a very big disdain towards slots.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Because I think, so in the US, we're much more tightly regulated on gambling, which is why I think I'm a little bit more, like, ambivalent about it. Mostly because, this is, like, the one time that Christian Puritanism is, like, possibly a good thing. It took us until maybe last year to legalize online sports betting.
Yes.
Like, it's actually almost impossible to find a casino in most major cities. You actually can't. Things like slot machines, non-existent.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't really exist in most American cities. And so I think it's a lot easier to control yourself when you're in an environment where you're basically, like, deprived of it at wherever you go.
But here's the kicker. The fact that Stake is a crypto gambling casino, I think it is based in Curacao, which is where a lot of online gambling services are based. They're based in Curacao or some Caribbean nation because of restrictions. They can, and I think it has to be said that it is technically illegal to use Stake in the US. Yeah. You have to be in Canada to use it. But everyone on the internet knows that all it takes is a VPN to kind of mask your location.
And if you're on the border, it's very easy to jump over. Let us just
Streamers
say.
moved to Canada to stream on Stake. Train moved to Canada to legally stream on Stake.
Oh my gosh, why?
Like legally stream himself playing on Stake. Sorry, is the way that I should phrase that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, there is precedent for this.
It's kind of like, I already have a very... If you know me and any of my game playing, I actually do play quite a bit of gacha games. I really, really like gacha games.
Yeah.
But I remember distinctively having a moment where I had to explain to one of my finance coworkers, like, what exactly makes gacha good. And his exact response to me was, "Wow, gambling and little children. I never realized that could be a winning combination. And I just had a
enter
moment.
Genshin Impact.
Yes, yes, Genshin. Genshin, Apex, loot boxes,
Yeah.
EA Sports, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's true that, like, you know, gacha is a little bit of a murky area because, like, it is gambling.
Yep.
But it is so much more different when, like, the thing that might pop out of an open loot box is not like a PNG, but literally 10 million fucking dollars.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And at least you are guaranteed some sort of return in a gacha game, is kind of my take on it. Is like whether the return is worth the investment, it remains to be seen. But you do actually get a return. You get items. You don't get that with slots. Like you're not guaranteed a return of any kind.
Yeah. It's also just that like people will make fun of you for playing gacha games. Let's
damn right.
Just be honest, right?
As someone who plays gacha games, I also make fun of myself for playing gacha games.
Exactly. I spent how much on a PNG?
Yeah.
But like slots is more like we should take into consideration that the world universally hates slot machines for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I don't that's number one reason why I don't recommend Kick to VTubers. The second one is the people that they back. So I'm just gonna pull up Kick's community guidelines here because they do read like general community guidelines. They have all the same wording that Twitch does. Like, you know, you're not allowed to like do anything illegal or that kind of stuff. You're not allowed to show nudity. You're not allowed to, I think hate speech is on here somewhere. I don't know. This is a very big list. It's a dot point list. It's pretty similar to all the community guidelines and general restrictions you'll see on any content creation platform. The difference is how this is enforced. So, enter EIEN Ross. EIEN Ross, who, if you didn't know, and I'm sorry that I'm now informing you of his existence, is an absolutely despicable human being, and I'm willing to say that despite the defamation risk in Australia. He is a very prominent former Twitch streamer, now on Kick, who has made numerous outrage, who has been the subject of numerous outrage things for doing completely outrageous stuff, whether it be homophobic, sexist, racist, xenophobic, you name it, he's probably thrown a slur in that direction. And he is...
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's not the nicest human being. I think the recent tirade that he's been on has been very anti-trans, off the top of my head. He is basically now, alongside Train, the face of Kick. And if we're going to take Kick's general restrictions, in my eyes, EIEN breaks so many of them. For example, involved in or promote fraud, scams, or deception. He's been involved in a couple of those around the crypto days. You know, involve threats or harassment. He has literally told specific portions of the community to die. You know, and there was also the funniest one. See, and this is the only time he was actually ever like reprimanded. Was he actually just straight up streamed adult content?
Oh gosh.
Like it was full nudity adult content. And that was the only time he was reprimanded by Kick. Not for any of the other information that he has done, or not for any of the things that he said, but because he streamed full-on pornography. That is the only reason he has been reprimanded on Kick so far, and that goes you to show how they implement their community guidelines. I also wanted to just dive into the terms of service a little bit. I gave this a read earlier. This is a lot of legalese, and I have a pounding headache, and I feel very nauseous. So I did not give it the greatest look. I am fighting for my life while recording this podcast, by the way. It is... like, it's all pretty stock standard legal stuff. The payment, I can pull up payments. Oh, there you go, right here. Like, this is like a kind of like a thing that Kick has going for it over Twitch is like, you know, it's 30-day payment at the end of each calendar month, whereas Twitch is now, I think, 45 days again.
Yeah, 45 days. Mm-hmm.
And they will also pay you out as soon as you have $10, whereas Twitch is 50 now. So they'll at least pay you out more, and the monetization is better, quote unquote. But the thing in the long run with Kick is it's got such a small base that you're more likely to find success on Twitch anyways, even with the worst splits, or YouTube anyways with the worst splits, because you have a higher chance of better discoverability.
Yeah. Which is also just kind of like ass, because you have quote unquote better discoverability because there's just less people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fallacy that feeds into itself. The reason why you're more discoverable is there's less competition. But there is your ceiling is like way so lower. Low. Yeah. And look, for the very few that can actually break the ceiling a little bit and earn their money off of Kick, sure, they earn their money. But my moral compass dictates that is blood money. That is money from crypto. That is money from crypto gambling. That is literally blood money. And you can argue that, you know, YouTube and Twitch have very similar platforms of blood money because Alphabet is not a great company and Amazon mistreats its workers. But
okay, but there's like a hell and heaven difference between making your money off of people literally gambling their life savings away. I mean, like, even for the people who can control themselves, right? Yeah. It's still a game in which 99% of people are going to lose money. It's like playing the lottery.
No, 100%. Right? 100% of people are going to, over time, if they gamble for long enough, will lose money by doing luck-based gambling. It is mathematically true. The house will always win.
Yeah. So, like, fundamentally, yes, it's, you know, it's a game. There's a lot of things to be said about these sorts of games. But it's one thing for me to go into Genshin and be like, the only thing I can win is literally a fucking PNG. And it's another thing to go into an online gambling casino and be like, hey, I could potentially win tons of money and sell people false hope.
Yeah. So that's kind of Kick for me. Like, Kick for me is a platform built on blood money, and that is just reason enough for me not want to stream on there. The toxic side of the community that it hosts is kind of another, by the fact that it is basically just all of the Twitch outcasts. So you kind of pick your poison with that platform. Now, I want to also talk about Rumble, which is a platform that I hadn't really heard much of until like it kind of got thrown around a lot this week, and I did my digging. And I was like, wow, this is actually a very terrible platform. So let's talk about it. Rumble is, as we mentioned earlier, it's a publicly listed company now. It started back in 2013. But this is the one news article that I think I'll pull up and basically explains everything that you need to know about it. For Hannah.
Man, I will never be free of this motherfucker.
Yep. So, Rumble is very much aligned with Truth Social. Truth Social is Donald Trump's social media venture. And I think if that doesn't tell you enough about what kind of platform Rumble is, then I don't know what to tell you. But I will also then show you also this BBC article where it talks about cancel culture. And when people talk about we want to stop cancel culture, it's one of those kind of topics where I kind of just completely zone out. I just completely like, your argument is no longer valid in my eyes. Where Rumble very much professes itself as being a free speech platform, and as a result, you'll see a lot of the names that are on Rumble are basically blocked on every single other platform. If you want to see Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all those kinds of wonderful human beings and political commentators, you can find them on Rumble. So Rumble itself hasn't necessarily been a big influence in the gaming space, but as I mentioned, by signing Mizkif, they kind of get into that area. And so Rumble is now just, it's a cesspool. Like, it is like, the content on there is just terrible. You can see, you know, there's some fun bit of Andrew Tate down here. And you can see, like, gaming makes up a very small part of it. Right now, there are 422 viewers watching gaming streams on Rumble. But it is growing because of the fact that people are sick of... Like... Yeah, everyone else is just old man yells at cloud. it is very hard to advocate for VTubers and gaming streamers to move to Rumble in the first place because of what kind of content it's geared towards. And then the additional add-on is they are the content creators that are big on Rumble are incredibly bigoted, and that makes it a very hard platform. That if you want to promote yourself as a creator who, you know, espouts inclusivity and diversity, these two platforms are basically off limits because of the people that they host. It is all about when you stream on these sites, you are the sum of your community, and you are the company you keep. And if you're streaming on Kick, the company you keep is a bunch of crypto gambling streamers who got kicked off of Twitch, plus Eden Ross, who is not necessarily known for being the most shining example of a human being. If you are on Rumble, you are keeping the company you are keeping are some very, very bigoted political commentators and the occasional odd controversial streamer. And
it's just like, okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna be completely frank. I have my issues with Hassan, right? Hasabi and Young Turks. But the issues that I have with them are nowhere close to the issues that I would have with everyone on Rumble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they do a little bit of genocide denial. Not a little bit, a ton, right? Like, that's where their name literally comes from. But at least they are not nearly as homophobic as the people that are on this other channel.
Yep. So, let this be known. You can stream wherever you want. Really? That's like, if you think that Rumble is going to be a platform for you that aligns more broadly with your content than what you can get on Twitch and YouTube, power to you. Just understand that your action of streaming on Rumble has consequences. And that consequence will be, first of all, you're on a platform with Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, which my condolences. The second consequence of that is you will then facilitate a community that breeds that kind of content. You will basically never be able to escape it from your name. And eventually, these kinds of comments, when it comes to marketing dollars and it comes to breaking through the glass ceiling of streaming and making a living off of content creation, will run out eventually. There will always be a market for people backing what I like to call bigoted content creators, because that's how Alex Jones has made a living, right?
Or like Andrew Tate has made a living, right? Yeah.
But those people exist, but you are much more likely to be more successful with the backing of, big marketing dollars that you can get off of Twitch and YouTube by catering your content in certain ways. And you are much more likely to find at least a little modicum of success than you are trying to become the next Andrew Tate. Because I'm going to be real with you. You ain't becoming the next Andrew Tate. You're not becoming the next Alex Jones by streaming on Rumble. All you are doing is completely shooting yourself in the foot and basically drawing the biggest red flag possible over your content. And that red flag will carry you no matter where you go.
The thing that I need to have everyone in the world kind of fully understand is that there is no one more, I don't even want to call them conservative, just extremely risk averse than your average business person.
Yeah.
If a big corporation, a lot of people are always like, wow, everyone's pride washing now, right? If they're pride washing, it's literally because they've done the calculus and have realized that it is profitable. It is actually less profitable to not make a statement than it is to make a statement, right? And the flip side is also true. The moment you associate with a specific segment of the market, 99% of corporations will run away. Because not because they are necessarily against it, but because they are deathly afraid of what might happen if someone's like, hey, your content just got shown here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not what Nestle wants. As shitty as the company is, it's not what Nestle wants, not what Unilever wants. Coca-Cola may have assassinated some union leaders in the past, but they certainly do not want that on their hands right now.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they stopped.
Yeah.
So, this is just how they think.
Yeah. And let's face it, the stuff that is changing in Twitch is not going to impact 99% of streamers. It will impact like in little ways, but it's not going to be completely game-changing or game-breaking, and it is also things that you might see on other platforms regardless. So it's not necessarily that. You are not going to move to one of these other platforms like Kick or Rumble and make a living. It's just plain and simple. You might earn a little bit of a boost by the fact of, you know, I know Kick definitely does this. When a new streamer starts on there, they push them very hard for discoverability purposes. And like, there's a very big culture on Kick of, you know, gifting and that kind of stuff to new users. But that falls off after a month, right? And when you are streaming long-term and you have this long-term goal in mind to be a big content creator, do you want to be on the platform that has, you know, 48,000 people currently watching a Just Chatting stream? Or do you want to, like, watching all of the Just Chatting streams? Or do you want to be on Twitch where that number is frequently 10 times that amount? And quite often 20 times that amount? You're more likely to grow big and make a viable living off of Twitch because there is just purely more eyeballs. And even though that you get a slightly worse split, you still have a bigger share. You still have a share of the pie. And that pie is infinitely bigger than the pie that they are cooking over at Kick and Rumble.
To be frank, I don't know if, like, Twitch is changing for the better or for the worse. But what I have seen, at least over the past week, is that there are enough people talking about it where when they flip out, like, change actually happens, right?
Yeah.
It's not to say that either of us think this was very good. We both think it was kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, enough people flipped out and enough people talked about it that there was immediate change in reaction.
Yeah.
I don't think that's possible for any of these smaller streaming platforms. And so that is also an extreme risk. Like, even if we were talking about the best platform out there, if they're too small, and sadly, like, anything besides the big two, not including Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok, because those are three very different platforms.
They
right?
generate content for a different market.
Yeah, for a very, very different market. Like, besides these big two, fundamentally, the others are just too small for anyone to really notice or care.
Yep. Plain and simple. I think that covers off that topic. I think I've gotten it all out of my system. I think the TLDR of it is, just know if you go to Kick and Rumble, there will be a black mark next to your name. And that black mark doesn't just extend to the community. It will extend to sponsors and advertisers. So
it mostly extends to the sponsors and advertisers, so be careful.
Yeah. So if that's a risk you're willing to run, and that's the content you're wanting to provide, go wild. I'm not going to stop you. But it's a risky run. And, you know, I will judge you for it. I know people on Twitter have been saying, don't judge people for where they stream. Sorry, no. I will judge you if you stream on Kick and earn the blood money that is earned off of the back of a crypto gambling casino. And I'll also judge you if you stream on Rumble, which is a platform which is partnered with Truth Social. I'm sorry. I will judge you for those two facts. You can make whatever content you like on Twitch and YouTube, and I might disagree with it, but at least you're making it on Twitch and YouTube. If you're too bad that you get kicked off of both of those platforms, that is time for introspection. So
it's also just like the degree of content you can make is inherently going to get limited when you go onto a platform where everyone thinks the same way.
Yep. So I've had my rant now. That's like an hour.
It was an important rant.
Yeah.
Please, someone make a better platform.
Well, funny you speak of that. Let's talk about VStream again. So, oh god, hold on. I feel like dying. Ugh. Alright.
Should we take a short ad break here?
Yeah, okay, let's take an ad break here so I can go and try not to die. So I'll be back in a bit.
Hang in there, Ducky.
I'm running an ad. Rainy's here for the awkward silence. Nice. Oh my god.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, VTuber is here.
Hey,
Oh my
E.
gosh,
Yeah, E's here. At perfect timing
we're
too.
talking about you.
Yeah, we're literally talking about you. Yeah. Sorry, I had to go off and
Okay.
try not to die. I'm not feeling too well today, but we will push through because we are. I can tell by the
Yeah.
length of, I can see by the length of my tabs how far into the podcast we are, and I can tell you right now we are like 2/3 of the way in, because all of my previous tabs were trying to tell everyone why Kick and Rumble are not good platforms.
Okay. But
Anyways,
for this section, I'm a hijack. I'm a hijack the floor and be like, last time I completely forgot to talk about Weverse.
yeah, you did, but we
Yeah.
can bring it up here.
So
So,
wait, should I
uh,
bring up what Weverse is first, or should we get into VStream?
let me give the intro spiel, and then you can bring up the Weverse point, then we can get up.
Yeah.
It'll all work together. It'll all work together.
Yeah.
So, in the last episode of Virtual Recap, Hannah and I did a little bit of a deep dive for VStream, which is, funnily enough, after the topic of discussion at the top of the podcast, is an alternative streaming platform to Twitch and YouTube that is geared towards VTubers. And as you can see in the title here, because I did a spotlight article for VTuber News Drop with them, where they promised the future of virtual streaming. And it's very much geared towards VTubers. And you can see that, there are a couple of big names in there. Valentina Chise is actually like a very decently sized creator as an ambassador. She was previously on Prodigy app and was the biggest creator on there, and now is doing stuff with VStream. And so I went and I spoke to E, who is actually in chat right now, who was very gracious in giving me time after the last podcast episode to chat about VStream and answer any of the questions that we had. And I also spoke to one of the streamers who currently streams a lot on VStream called Tamara Tora. They're just a regular streamer, content creator in that regard. But VStream has some backing, like it's got Silicon Valley funding, raised 3.6 million at a seed stage, and is looking at doing a proper Series A funding round in next year. And when we were doing our research into it and doing our discussions, and Hannah and I were talking about it last week, it's less like a YouTube or Twitch competitor. It's like a mix of like a fan membership platform like Weverse, and then a mix of streaming. So, Hannah, this is your time to explain what Weverse is.
Yes. Okay, so there's a reason why I personally found this extremely interesting, and it's because so Weverse is kind of like Patreon, but for like, imagine your BTS's, your Le Seraphims. Like, I just got my Weverse shipment for my BTS Army membership, which
Yep.
I needed to have in order to go to a concert. Yeah, I'm one of those people. And and like, it's exciting because I feel like, especially when I was reading your article, right? And we were talking about it felt less like a direct competitor and more like we exist to kind of be on top. Yeah. So it's exactly like what Fanbox and Patreon are, or like even Ko-Fi to a certain extent, right? Where you pay a certain amount and you essentially get access to exclusive content. And what really excited me the most was when, in your article, I think you pointed out when you were talking to E that there was a moment where basically the main premise wasn't just to stream, it was to sort of be like a community creation atmosphere in addition to streaming. And I was like, wait, this could actually work because you don't need everyone to switch off then. You just need some amount of people to go, oh hey, like I could actually use this to like curate a specific community for myself and everyone else.
I'm sorry. I'm loving the New York background that we're having right now with the sirens. It's just like
it's a very New York moment. Yeah, I'm getting arrested for being too much of an army. I'm sorry, guys.
It happens.
I know, right?
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, they're after me. They're after me for being a simp.
In the words of Martin Shkreli, jail isn't that bad.
Oh, it is that bad if you're in New York.
But yeah, so VStream, to like tie on to the point here, VStream wants to be more than a streaming site. It wants to be an all-in-one place for content and commerce. Content, community, and commerce were the 3 points that they highlighted. So content is obviously the streaming. Community adds in integration closer to like maybe YouTube community does, as well as Twitter, where it's like a little bit of a social media platform at the same time. And then the commerce side of it is being able to hold merch and act as a merch marketplace. And there is an ultimate goal to be closer to like a Skeb or a VGen as well, where they have like a commercial marketplace where, you know, people can commission through, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So by covering off the 3 C's, VStream then kind of becomes this one site fits all for VTubing.
Which like actually makes sense, because if you work at any corporation in the world, right, the very, very first thing that you actually learn is that there is a significant drop-off every time you have to ask somebody to go onto another platform.
Yep.
And that's super significant. The fact that they're able to have that capability, like how the execution will be, I don't know. It looks really nice. Like, I've been on the site several times. I was pretty excited about all of the different things that they were offering, but for now, it does seem like the best that we've seen thus far.
Yeah. I think the fact that it is posing itself as being like a multi-service site, it's not just a streaming site like Kick, Rumble, etc. It is like hey, it's meant to be like a little bit of a streaming site, it's meant to be a little bit of a social media platform. The big kicker for me is the commerce side of things, because VTubing kind of lacks a dedicated market base for everything. So if they are able to put that dedicated marketplace for individual merch plus commissions onto one site, that is going to be hugely beneficial to so many people in the space. So that I'm interested in. They have their money where their mouth is. Like the founders, and I forgot the other guy's name. I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to scroll up. Eric Koslow. Eric Koslow used to do stuff at Teespring, right? Massive, massive merch platform. So they're looking at integrating that into what they can do at VStream and basically just become a one-stop shop for VTubers. And honestly, if it means that you have a profile in VStream but you stream on other platforms, that's totally fine. Like, it's like you can have your merch marketplace on VStream and, you know, like maybe you simulcast between like Twitch and VStream or something like that, because they do allow for simulcasting as long as it doesn't break your other contracts. So, you know, it can become a one-stop shop. Am I still doubtful? Yeah, because I don't think there is ever going to be, at least in the near future, a site that can break through the duopoly of Twitch and YouTube. But what this site does offer is a unique experience compared to those sites. There is a niche that this is filling. It is very targeted towards the VTuber community, which is a bit of a niche community and like quite fine to target towards. But it's targeted towards that community, and it offers something that isn't currently available on the market. And that is usually a breeding ground for a successful startup versus I'm going to try and beat the big dogs at their own game.
I feel like so I've read a lot of the market reports when HYB first got listed on the stock market. And to put it frankly, a lot of people were just like, oh, they're trading so highly because of BTS. No, that's actually not the main reason for their market valuation. It's actually Weverse. And so that might be a huge reason why I'm so optimistic about it, because I'm just like, oh wow, this is like a genuine Weverse competitor that we might see from the United States. And like the entire world needs it. So clearly there is a market kind of like beyond that. We'll see how the execution is, but you know what? It's hopeful. It's hopeful.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you want to read more of that, I'm going to just drop the link in the chat now, so you can go and read that. For people who are watching this on YouTube, once we upload the VOD, that will be in the article. That'll be in the video description. You can go and read the article there. Moving on to another follow-up topic, because we're going to blaze through the topics here a little bit because I'm not feeling too well. I'm sorry, I'm really trying my best. We move on to
Parts in the chat for Ducky.
his studio cell. This feels like an eternity ago. This was only 2 weeks ago. This was a breaking news story when we had last podcast. And now the dust has settled a little bit. So Studio Cell, if you missed the first time around, was an animation studio started by a guy by the name of James Wicks, who was previously punted from multiple other studios. Most notably Tonari Animation, which is quite a big animation firm in the US. And they took on a number of VTubers to fulfill projects such as animations, music videos, graphics, etc. Took in more than $70,000 USD on over these projects, and only managed to execute on one. A singular project.
It wasn't even like a proper execution either. It was just like a, here you go, goodbye.
It was so bad that they had to go back to the drawing board and restart from scratch. And it was Giri's debut animation, re-debut animation, sorry, for when she moved over to Japan and started up there with Geeks Plus. And so the guy, James Wicks, came out and made a statement basically discrediting all of the stuff that was floating around. Did some wild NDA breaking. Leaked Bao's upcoming new song. Which
that was the wildest part.
Which was so funny but so sad at the same time. All this while he was complaining. All this while he's complaining about like animators breaking NDA by speaking out publicly about his conduct, which is just so fucking funny. But yeah, so he kind of just went through and like tried to discredit it all. This was an absolute joke where he said like, you know, he said that animation production is not easy. If anyone says otherwise, they'll be lying to you. And he basically tried to say, woe is me. Like, you know, my job is so hard. Please. He's not even the animator, by the way. He's just the manager coordinating all the animators together.
Yeah, because like it turned out that he wasn't even paying the animators.
Yeah. And so every single project that this guy touched turned to fucking shit. Absolutely every single project. And he used his credits at Tonari, where they actually did good VTuber work and actually had a portfolio, to lure in such high-profile creators.
Yeah. Because, like, for those of you who don't know, Tonari is a legitimately big name.
Yep.
They've done Guras, they've done like Ren's recent music video release. So they've done a lot of high profile things.
Yeah. So there is a platform of work that he could use, and they had delivered in the past. It's just Wicks himself never delivered. It was always at the studio. Wicks also played the sympathy card, and I don't like really framing him this way, but honestly, I just have no sympathy for him. Is like, he tried to say like he was self-harming, and, you know, was not in a right mental state. And I'm like, okay, cool. That doesn't mean you get to eke your way out of a contract and not provide a service that you offered at the price you offered it for. It
gives us understanding. It does not excuse, is what I like to say.
Yep. Anyways, basically every single one of his points was discredited by all of the creators. He said that he was paying out refunds to the smaller creators. Smaller creators. He was paying out refunds to all of the smaller projects, such as Girl DMs, Nemu, etc. Never been contacted about a refund. So just blatantly lying for the whole... How long was the document again? It was some 35-page document. It was 35 pages.
Some ridiculously long one.
It was fucking ridiculous. Anyways, we're just doing a follow-up on this because I wanted to bring it up, that we talked about last week, our last podcast, and we'll bring it up again now, is that, yeah, you know, shit happened. It sucked.
Why, guy? Why?
And honestly, like, these are the kinds of things that do set VTubing back a little bit. Like, I talk about it in a media sense, where if a VTuber has a bad experience with their first article, their first media interaction, they're less likely to have media interactions in the long run. For this, it's like, you know, if a VTuber has a bad interaction with an animation studio, they're less likely to engage.
Commission free for things, yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that is why we need stuff like VGen.
Yeah.
And all those platforms,
Yeah.
including VStream. Like, the reason why these brokerages kind of exist is so that they can be the middleman to be like, hey, we're gonna hold 50% of your funds if you don't pay out on this.
Yeah.
I just had my first VGen commission, which is my new icon. It's so cute.
By Unicat. Amazing art.
Yeah. And it's one of those main things where, like, you know, this is the reason why trust is so important.
Yeah.
That, like, the more you trust, the more you can do things, and the less you trust, the more that poisons the entire well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyways, the funniest part to come out of this is that Wix promised a second part and then failed to deliver on a second part, which is just so par for the course. Promised to address even more of the allegations.
Writes itself.
And the joke does write itself. So yeah, that's kind of the end of that chapter. I really do want to talk about like Riifu Evergreen, and I really do want to talk about the PRISM debuts and stuff, but I am cooked. I am so cooked.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to call it here. We've done a lot of talking about Kick and streaming sites and touched on some news that we had touched on previously. So for the sake of making sure that it gets into the video when I record it on YouTube, I'm just going to really quickly blaze through. Riifu Evergreen was terminated from EIEN Project on April 29, as you can see, April 28 US time, basically for breaking through the contract. Riifu went complete radio silence, obviously, because that's what happens in a termination. And there was a bunch of stuff about the agency that, you know, they were side-eyeing, and then they just came out with this full, whole hog, 1,000-word statement about how she breached NDA, the talent contract, spoke inappropriately and unprofessionally to management and fellow creators, was trying to get the Steam account that she was registered with, like, that she, like, got through EIEN, and, like, tried to take it when she graduated, and EIEN was like, wait, no, this is, like, our property, like, you know, these games.
Yeah.
And they're like,
most of the time, that's extremely par for the course when you're with any of these sorts of agencies, where when you leave, anything that has that name on it, you kind of hand over to them.
And they had a very nice statement at it where it's like, yeah, this is currently being dealt with in the legal system, and, like, you know, we're not gonna break our own NDAs and talent contracts, and, you know, for privacy reasons, we're not going to share that information now, but if it escalates, we will. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like a don't. It's like a very thinly veiled, like, don't. Towards
please don't force our hand.
Yeah, don't force our hand. That will never work. Zion. Yeah, that typically does not end well for the VTuber. And the last little one is I wanted to touch on a couple of little debuts. PRISM Project Gen 6 is coming out. I have a lot of faith in PRISM Project. I have some more content coming out with them soon enough, which I'm very excited to share. And they debuted their first, not just male agents, but male presenting agents, which I thought was a very nice little touch. And
the wording is important.
The wording is important. And I spoke to Shogun, who is the producer of, like, the head honcho of PRISM Project, about it. It was a deliberate decision. They want to be deliberately broader to attract people of all backgrounds, regardless of age, race, gender, etc. And gender identity literally doesn't matter. They're going to give their talents down the line the models that they want, that they feel like they align with best, and that is how they're going to do it, as long as they fulfill the entertainment criteria that they want and the kind of person that they're looking for. It doesn't matter, which I think is a very, very positive step to see from a corporation, especially a Japanese one.
Well, to be fair, I will say that and this is something very interesting that I think one of our longtime viewers actually said. This sort of thing tends to happen on the guy side, but you almost never see trans women getting hired for whatever reason. And, you know, I'm not going to get into speculation here, but
Yeah.
I think we can all tell why, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's happening. Also, Idol Gen 2 is debuting.
Yes.
Which
Super
I know
exciting.
is a very exciting prospect for you.
Yeah. But also just like so Idol Gen 2 and the fact that they were doing so many watch-alongs with a ton of people
Yeah.
is super super cool.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they're doing they did like a ton of watch-alongs, which if we can go to the Twitter here, you can kind of see. And like it's like full of people watching along. By the way, where's my invite? What the fuck?
I know, right? Where was ours?
Yeah, where was our invite?
JK.
Come on, Ariel. We speak so nicely of you. But this is kind of like the future of stuff. Sorry, I'm trying not to die.
Hang in there.
The watch-alongs and like this is like Idol always puts on a marketing masterclass. This is one of the best ways to get eyeballs on a new generation is to have people watch it, and that's why like agency VTubers in like Hololive or Nijisanji do like the relays, watch-alongs, and that kind of thing, right? Because it does help generate the engagement.
To be quite frank, that's why Luxium did well.
Yeah, V4 Mirai is the last section of this carry. I was going to bring it up as well. Is like Brave Group is now branching out into the end space, and they also did a similar watch-along thing. So there's a lot of awesome debuts happening. There's a lot of new creators and a lot of agencies really putting like muscling their way into the space now, which is very very good, and I think speaks very well for the future of the VTubing space.
Mm-hmm.
You have anything to add?
No.
No.
We covered everything that we wanted to cover. Good job, Ducky!
We made it through, even though the last sections were way more rushed than I was hoping for, but I am really sorry. I feel like death. Anyways.
No, we made it. That's what counts.
We made it, yes. So thank you everyone for coming to episode 4 virtual recap. If it's your first time, thank you so much. I would appreciate if you could follow or subscribe. You know, you can get some cool emotes. And also no ads, which is a very big bonus that people have found out over the last few episodes.